Can you hear it now?
That's for consent.
Right, for consent.
Water down here. 10 seconds. Okay. Good evening. This is the Monday, March 11th, 2013 meeting of the Administration and Public Works Committee. We have our current chair and our past chair both are absent, so I will be chairing the meeting for this evening. And we do have a quorum. So could I have a motion to accept the minutes of the February 25th meeting?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items for consideration. The City of Evanston's payroll through February 24th, 2013 is $2,702,758.10. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? City of Evanston bills for funding year 2013, 3/12/13, $2,772,227.99. Credit card activity through January 31st, 2013 is $96,188.50. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been. Are the bills list is in front of you? Are there any comments on the bills list? Any questions?
No.
Everything's okay, fine. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to A 3.1, approval of the agreement with DBHMS for professional consulting services for the 2013 HVAC Improvement Project, RFP 13-03. The staff recommends that the City Council authorize the City Manager to execute a contract for professional consulting services at a total cost of $72,804. The funding would be provided by the Capital Improvement Program, account number 416144, for the Police Fire Headquarters, account 415602 for the Levy Center, and the account 415697 for Fleetwood Jourdain.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we're going to have to get you guys, there's only 3 of us, so we're going to have to get those motions going.
I'll move approval, and you can second.
Okay, moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A 3.2, Approval of an estimated annual user charge for 2013 with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for the disposal of sludge in the amount of $343,732.27. Funding for this work will be from the Water Fund, account number 7110.62420.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Rainey, I didn't.
I think this is one of those expenditures that we have that people know so little about, and when I first heard about it, it was quite shocking. We dispose of sludge through which our water has traveled, and the district makes us pay for that. And last year, it was very close, tell me if I'm wrong, to $1 million. It was 900, after the prove-up, it was 900 and some odd $1,000 to clean our sludge. And so, I mean, who would think of that as being an expense of, the water department? But
it is.
So, just, we have no control over it. It all has to do with the turbidity of the water and whether there are storms and things. And so it's just one of those expenditures, sort of like another expenditure that I hate, which is the county's tax on parking facilities,
Right.
which is thousands and thousands of dollars a month. But we have no control over it.
Absolutely. It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A, 3.3, approval of the Northeastern Illinois Public Safety Training Academy for 2013 membership dues. Staff recommends approval of payment for the 2013 Fire and Public Works membership fees to the Northeastern Public Safety Training Academy in the amount of $25,042.
Move approval.
Okay. It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A, 3.4, approval of contract award to the Mullins and Lonergan Associates for the analysis of impediments for fair housing choices, RFP 12-170. It's in the amount of $24,990, and funding is provided by CDGB Administration Account Number 5220.62490 and NSP2 Administration Account Number 5005.62490 in the amount of $12,495 each. And the analysis is required by HUD for CDGB, home, and NSP2 grant funding. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Alderman Rainey.
Could we ask Ms. Flax if this was required last year? Was this required? I don't-
Ms. Black, could you address that?
Alderman Holmes and members of the committee, Sarah Flax, Housing and Grants Administrator. It was not required last year. It is an analysis of impediments is required approximately every 5 years. That's what they recommend. And our timing is to have the information when we start our next consolidated planning process, which will cover 2015 through the next 5 years.
Could you provide us with the results of the last one we did? Did we do one?
We did. It was a very long time ago. Outside of our normal period, it did not give us any specific actionable information other than to look at zoning. And in some cases, we did address that in some of our new zoning. For example, in the West Evanston Master Plan, we had granny flats and some other unit types that we established in an attempt to diversify the types of housing. And that was the biggest thing coming out of that.
We might have done that anyway. I mean, to me, my thinking is somebody at HUD or in DC has relatives in this business, and so therefore this is required. I mean, I just, to require it every 5, it just seems like such a boondoggle. But I have no problem voting for it every 5 years if it's required. They
Doesn't give us
have
too much of a
over
choice,
barrel.
right?
And it would be nice if we could have somebody not in another part of the country doing it. But I also understand that was the bid.
Yes, they are located in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Phil, did we carry that all the way through? Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor? Any opposed? A 3.5, approval of 3 replacement vehicles purchased for Utilities Department. Staff recommends City Council approval for the purchase of 3 replacement vehicles for the Utilities Department in the amount of $529,558.08 as follows. A Ford F-550 truck, that's going to come from Curry Motors, and in the amount of $76,381.08. And International Harvest in the amount of $124,177. And from Standard Equipment in the amount of $329,000. And these is funding, it's provided by the Water and Sewer Department, and I'm looking to see if there's a name, and I don't think I missed it. I know are these all F-550 trucks?
No, they're not.
Not, I didn't
I
think
got
so.
pictures.
Right. But it doesn't give a description of the other ones, that's, okay.
And Madam Chair, that was a follow-up
Right.
in the
The
bills
bills
list
list.
question, so I can,
But the staff has to tell us, what are these vehicles? That H1 means what? I mean, nothing.
Well, from the International Harvest, this is a replacement vehicle 919, which is the water distribution utility truck. And then from Standard Equipment Company, it is to replace a vehicle 954, which is a sewer cleaning machine.
Now we know.
So now we know what they are. So is there a motion to move for the $529,558.08?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any other comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You voting no?
No, no. Yes, I'm in favor.
Oh, okay. All right. A 3.6, approval of renewal of the annual Acela PAL sole source maintenance and support agreement. Staff recommends the City Council authorize the city manager to renew the sole source agreement with Acela in the amount of, and this is in the amount of $128,000, which is a 2.2% decrease from the 2012 cost. This agreement covers the period March 15, 2013 through March 14, 2014. And it is the automation software for permits and licensing. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to A 3.7, approval of the renewal of the building automation service agreement with Snyder Electric for 2013. And this is the staff recommends the City Council authorize the city manager to execute a 1-year renewal of the service agreement for the Snyder Building Automation System at the 8 city facilities with Snyder Electric, which is located in Homewood, Illinois, in the amount of $23,640 for 2013. This price reflects no increase from 2012 to 2013. Funding is provided by the Facilities Management Account 3807.62509. And before I even ask for a motion, we do have someone who would like to speak to this. Mr. Jonathan, is that
I thought it was
A7? This is
no, this is A37.
A37. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong one. Okay, so is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right. A 3.8, approval of the renewal of the building automation service agreement with Siemens for 2013. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute a one-year renewal of the 2013 sole source annual service agreement for the building automation system at the police headquarters 911 center with Siemens Building Technologies in the amount of $25,022, and it comes from the account number 3807.62225 and the E911 Center in the account of 5150.62509. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. All in favor? Any opposed? Alderman Rainey, you have your light on. I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to ask if there was any way that we could consolidate this service with the service from Schneider. I don't know if it's two different systems, or maybe we could.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Paul D'Agostino, Superintendent of Parks, Forestry, and Facilities Management. Unfortunately, we're not able to combine these two types of accounts. All of the equipment is very proprietary to these manufacturers, so we have no choice, really.
Okay.
Paul, though, I suppose it would also be helpful to note the amount that we have consolidated over the past few years. We have, over the past few years, standardized on, is it the BAS, on that?
Mostly for the Schneider, yes, for all of our other facilities, yes.
So we've been moving that way.
I noticed, I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A5, acceptance of the year-end financial report for the fiscal year 20.
I'm sorry, A4.
Oh, sorry. I checked it off before approval of the change order number 1 for the 2012 washroom renovation project at the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center, bid 12-137. Staff recommends approval of the change order number 1 in the amount of $59,262 for the 2012 washroom renovation project at the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center. This change order will increase the current contract amount from $284,800 to $344,142. Funding is provided by the 2013 CIP account 415172 with a budget of $415,000. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
It was interesting reading this. I wonder, in terms of the rest of the building, if we ever start doing things, what kind of things Mr. Gaynor is keeping his fingers crossed in terms of what we might find. I mean, I thought it was very interesting, and I was also interested in how this connects to the elevator, I believe, on the 3rd floor, and that's going to have to be closed off. I believe that's what it said. Is that true? I mean, I know it's true because you said it, but I mean, how do those connections
It's not actually connected to the elevator, it's adjacent. One wall is the elevator shaft, and on the other side of that wall is the restroom.
Oh, okay.
So when they're working on that wall, there's going to be some material going into the shaft.
Oh, okay. So that's why I won't be able to.
Right.
Okay. All right. But I mean, just uncovering all of the things in this building might be.
Yeah, we have done some preliminary investigations on the rest of this wing of the building to make sure we didn't have this situation anywhere else, and we could not find anything.
Oh, okay. Great. That's good. Any other comments? It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A5, acceptance of the year-end financial report for fiscal year 2012. Staff recommends City Council accept and place the year-end funding year 2012 financial report on file.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
We do the quarterly report, as the name states, once a quarter. Otherwise, we provide the council with monthly financial reports that are then also posted online. We have a presentation tonight. We have a smaller crew. I'm happy to go through the presentation now and entertain any questions from council if it comes up. But I will be fairly brief. And I see the city manager coming my way. Nope, okay. All right, so I can go through. I have about 12 slides to go through. If after the slides you would like to see the presentation for the whole council, I can tell you briefly that it is a reasonably good news for our general fund and other funds. So it's not a dire results from our 2012 fiscal year results.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, Brandon, I should have remembered. Just to make sure everyone is clear, especially for when we have these reproduced, these are unaudited. We may still have some receivables and payables that come in. We work with our auditors through the months of March, April, and May to make sure that we have accounted for everything properly and prepare for the council an audited financial report by June 30th of each year within 180 days of the close of the year. The budget was amended last year by $1.75 million. That was a transfer from the general fund to the equipment replacement fund and capital improvements funds. Capital improvements got $1.25 million for additional streets, equipment replacement for additional vehicles. The general fund this is the first time in several years, the general fund did have a $480,000 favorable variance on our revenues. We were at about 99 point something last year, 99.3, just under. And thanks in large part due to income tax, building permits, and we'll go through a few of the other things, we were over budget in revenues, I think since the first time since I've been here. General fund expenditures finished below the amended budget, so I think that's important to note. So we did transfer all $1.75 million, but we did end up $919,000 below, or 1% below budget. So this results in a deficit. We budgeted a $1.75 million deficit, so we ended up with a $346,000 deficit. In other words, performance-based, we were about $1.4 million to the good. Yes, Alderman Rainey. Okay.
Go ahead, Alderman Rainey.
Marty, could you just comment briefly on the discrepancy between the 2011 audited actual property tax and the 2012 year-to-date actual?
And which page are you on? I just want to make sure.
172, I think. Isn't it 172?
184.
Or 184?
It's the general fund.
The 2011 was still a full year because in the 10 months, we got the whole levy, and then the next year, the library is removed.
Okay, so that, the shortfall there is in the library fund.
Right, so the library fund is broken out for 2012. We did that in the budget even when the county was not wanting us to have the library separate. As we noted, the property taxes did come in at budget. A lot of that had to do with prior year taxes. So we did get some prior year payments. In the past, I've had to report to you prior year refunds. We did have a good luck this year in prior year payments. Combined sales tax. We are looking at this and looking at whether or not we need to do an audit for underpayment purposes. Our sales tax projections came in under budget. $883K is about 5% under budget. So that is substantial enough that we want to take a look at our overall payments. As you may know, we do get sales tax data by vendor, those actually paying the sales tax in, and then by sector. So we'll take a look at sectors first to see what is performing at budget, and then go from there to see if we have to drill down all the way into individual business owners in the city. Real estate transfer taxes came in at $2 million, and that was above the amended budget. We raised the budget up during that process from 1.6 to 1.7, and still came in $300,000 over. Income taxes was the biggest surprise at $6.4 million, or about $600,000 above budget. So that was very good news, showing a little bit of strength in the overall state economy. This is the per capita tax, so this is not reflective of the Evanston economy on its own.
Hold on just a minute, Mark. Alderman Rainey.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm looking at some of these taxes, and the ones that indicate to me, and I'm no expert at all, but when I think of how I live, when I look at some of these taxes and I see how much more we generated this year, I mean, it just says to me that things are definitely getting better. I mean, the liquor, or I guess liquor tax up could either mean things are really bad or really good. But I'm looking at it as being really good. And I was just really impressed by some of the increases.
The only one that didn't go that well was hotel tax.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that was the only one that, so we'll be looking at that
And yet
overall.
we're told that the hotels are filled, so.
Well, they did have, I believe also when we talked to the hoteliers, their rates came down a little bit. So they can be full,
Oh,
but
and the
still
tax rate,
have,
yeah.
it's a lesser tax when it's a percentage amount.
Okay, sorry.
As I noted, building permits came in at $3.5 million, or $750,000 above budget. And we're also projecting a fairly strong this year as well. Just a brief breakdown: Northwestern University, then the Focus Development, and then also the Visitor Center. So some large permits that came in, and we also have similar amounts scheduled for this year. Utility taxes, they were under budget, and that is to be expected. When we have a winter like we had with no snow, what we don't spend in salt, then we don't get in utility taxes when there isn't a lot of natural gas and electricity. As Alderman Rainey noted, we had liquor and parking. Parking especially was nice to see. Liquor, we've been seeing such a very active downtown and a very active restaurant community. That was something we expected. So again, total revenue $83.2 million, or just under $500,000 over budget. So Alderman Rainey was pointing for the audience at page 184, which is a more detailed page. Brandon, we'll put this online as well, the presentation. But this is a summary where we do put a few of the taxes and lump a lot of our other taxes into that last category, other non-tax revenue. So just a summary, again, license and permits leading the way, along with the income tax being a strong contributor.
And liquor taxes were next.
The license and permits is just a real indication. you know?
Yes,
I mean, and we've
absolutely.
had some projects start up, and that's well.
On the expense side, once again, staff has done an excellent job in holding the line. This does not include the library again. The library is in a separate fund. So at 98.9%, with the amount of decreases we've had year over year on discretionary spending, this was still an excellent performance by staff to stay under budget. Part of it, I think, it does have a little bit to do with our snow situation last year. So you have the $1.75 million at budget. And other than that, I think we did focus a lot during the year on police expenses, and that shows there. If you look at administrative services being at 91.6, one of the reasons that was so far below budget was that's where our unemployment expenses have been budgeted, and that continues to come in lower as we get further away from the involuntary layoffs that we had. So all of those have gone away from our expenses. And I would also like to We had Public Works once again as one of our best departments, coming in 5% under budget, yet still getting everything accomplished at that 94.8%. So because their budget's so large, that's a $500,000 difference. So what does this mean? We looked at eating into our fund balance, but that we had enough reserves to do that for doing additional capital work. As you can see, we had a ending last year balance of 18.4, and we're looking at 18.05. So a very stable picture for 2012 to present for the general fund. Other funds, we have a lot of variances, and both up and down in our other funds. Quite often, revenues will vary greatly due to grants or other reasons that the grants come in or we don't get the grant. We do a project or we don't do a project. We will vary our bond issue based on the needs right at that time. So our other fund revenues can vary. The library fund had a one-time variance, and that was literally moving their funds that were in the general fund over to them. We had to run that through the income statement, so that means that it's $521,000 of funds that get counted as revenue again, even though they're not revenue. So that's, as noted there, the library gift fund and other accounts, those were funds already in the general fund, credited to the library, but when they're moved, they're listed as revenue again. As you can see, we also are showing Neighborhood Stabilization Fund, CDBG, CDBG Loan Fund, and the Home Fund all had the variances listed. And in this case, the favorable variances show higher activity levels. So we're happy about in all of those funds to show those variances. Economic development, as we noted, had the lower the variance because of anticipated hotel and amusement tax revenue. Our TIF districts.
Hold on just a minute, Marty. Alderman Rainey.
Could you go back to Neighborhood Stabilization Fund, Marty?
Mm-hmm.
Where it refers to total revenue, what we mean is the balance in the $18 million, right?
Actually, no, this just refers to the drawdown of the grant in 2012. So we projected, I'll go to the page number in the...
I'm on 187?
You are correct. So we had a adopted budget of $6.7 million and an adopted budget of $5.7 million of grant proceeds, and it was $8 million in grant proceeds, and then so right now, and the combined amount with program income, it was actually supposed to be $7.45 million compared to the $8.14 million. So that's our variance of $692 in NSP2.
But the only real income revenue is the $93,000. I mean, the $8 million is the grant money.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's right. So, right, we had hoped to have property turnover and things of that nature that would have been other income.
Thank you.
Our TIF districts, the changes from 2008 in property values are now finally working their way through all of the assessors' calculations. So we are getting hit in a lot of our TIF districts on the assessed value, which then impacts the frozen tax increment, which lowers the property tax revenue. So Washington National TIF had the $335,000, and Howard Ridge did not get hit as hard as it would look. Included in Howard Ridge was a refund of 2008 taxes of $180,000. So that's not just a decrease in the 2011 levy payable in 2012, that's also a refund. And then also in the unfavorable variance for West Evanston TIF, we did have more in the way of debt financing plan that we did not get started at this point. So that would be listed as an unfavorable variance, but that was a borrowing, so that's not necessarily, that's not a revenue shortfall. The debt service, the $4 million favorable variance is completely, that's due to the refinancing of our bonds, where we changed a January 1 payment to a December 1 payment, and the January 1 payment would have been made in the previous year. So this is all just one final legacy of the timing difference, moving from a March 1 to a January 1 year. There is not a now $4 million more in the debt service fund. We will just close the year, and it will always look like we're in a better position. There isn't any more or less funds. And then the capital improvements fund, the unfavorable variance in revenues is due to grants. When we say grants not being awarded, the expenses also did not go forward on those projects. So this is not a decision where or rather a situation where we were looking for a grant and didn't get it and still have expenses. So we would reapply in the next year. The water fund favorable variance was, for once in the last 4 years, higher than average water usage. Same in the sewer fund. And in the sewer fund, we also had deferral of the 2012 IEPA loan proceeds. That was also a part of that whole debt financing that we did in 2012. The unfavorable variance of $886 in the equipment replacement fund was due to the fleet fund. Our maintenance fund was not able to transfer as much money as we had anticipated. There were more costs in the maintenance side, and some of our assets were fixed assets, not cash assets that we wanted to transfer. So we could not transfer as much as we had budgeted for new equipment from the maintenance fund. On the expenditure side, the NSP2, $606,000, and I think Steve is still here in case we have questions on NSP2. When we say an unfavorable variance, again, in this case, we were happy to be underestimating because we had additional activity in this grant fund, so that's not a bad thing. The motor fuel tax favorable variance was due to the pricing on our contracts. We did as much of the streets as we budgeted, and the bids came in that much lower, and we will rebudget that in the following year and just do additional streets. The favorable variance for capital improvements was just the same as I noted before, that we had grants, the $4 million, but then we had $3.7 million in projects deferred. The projects didn't get started, so if those are debt finance projects, we already issued the debt. We have the funds in the bank to proceed with those projects. And then the same note on the debt service fund on the expense side. So I don't need to read each of these to you. In the case of 911, that is, these are all, actually all of the first 6 here are related to capital work. In the case of Washington National, we had projects budgeted that we did not move forward on. Howard Hartree, that was quite a bit of the right-of-way project. The $1.5 million is still budgeted in 2013 to move forward. The Southwest TIF, we had an infrastructure project that we did not move forward on. That TIF now has a $300,000 balance in it again. It had a negative balance at the end of the last year.
What was that?
The Southwest TIF, we had actually made the ward payment all at once, and it took the TIF into a slight negative, and therefore we deferred the one infrastructure project, and now there's sufficient funds this coming year should we choose to move forward. Howard Ridge, again, that is due to project deferrals, not because of being under budget. Those are deferred projects. And same with West Evanston TIF. In the West Evanston, we do have some of those projects moving forward now, and the same with Howard Ridge. expenses in Howard Ridge include the refund for 415, and that'll move forward, and we have that scheduled. Alderman Rainey, I am also still working on that project with the 415 Howard folks.
Is that something we don't want to mention? Probably, I don't know.
I would
mean,
rather wait until we
okay,
have definitive
all right.
numbers to bring
But
forward.
just to let people know, we are working very nicely, and they are being very cooperative.
And then we had favorable variances. Again, the Economic Development Fund, if you recall, was a little under that $433,000 for an unfavorable expense revenue variance. So we're still doing very well with the Economic Development Fund. It still has just under a $2 million reserve.
Let's spend it.
Our enterprise funds, I think the discussion before is similar. The water fund was under because of capital, the same with the sewer fund. The sewer was a large grant-funded project that we didn't move forward on. Equipment replacement fund, that had to do with we're still purchasing vehicles and we didn't get them all purchased in 2012. Actually, those will be paid out of the water and sewer fund, so this will be separate from that. Now the general fund is the major fund that comes out of equipment replacement. The solid waste fund, which has a negative balance overall, has been operating year to year very well. It's been operating at a surplus each year, and that's a good thing. We will slowly move out of a deficit balance in the solid waste fund as we continue to have expenses slightly below revenues in the new fund that we created. I talked about the fleet fund that had to do with, again, the reduced transfer and the unfavorable variance in the insurance fund. I believe the City Council is aware of the additional payments that we've had as far as settlements are concerned. So this is just a summary table. In this case, this summary table is to give you a feel for where we're at on the capital program. So when we say we've only spent about half of the capital program, a lot of that we outlined before. At least half of that has to do with deferrals, and then you have another large portion that was grant funded, and when we don't get the grants, we don't proceed with the projects. So I've already went through the general fund. I think we're at 21.6% fund balance. However, I would caution we do have negative balances in our insurance fund and in our solid waste fund. So while that is above our minimum, we are holding that reserve also as we handle our insurance and also bring the new enterprise fund, meaning the solid waste fund, into alignment and into a positive balance. Pension funds, we continue. Both fire and police pensions did do better than their assumption on investments this year. One of the things that we will that's been being tracked by Northwest Municipal Conference and IML is PSEBA, the Public Safety Employee Benefits Act. That is an unfunded liability of $17 million. There's no requirement presently under Illinois law to fund the insurance benefits that disabled police and firefighters have under the PSEBA Act. We pay on a pay-as-you-go basis. We don't put away funds for the future commitment. And finally, Moody's still has us during 2012 as a AAA-rated community, and so does Fitch.
City Manager.
Yes. Can we go back to the last slide? I think it's important to talk about the budgeted deficit of $1.75 million and the actual deficit being $346,000. The reason there was a budgeted deficit is that we had a budgeted transfer from fund balance. So the City Council decided to spend $1.75 million on one-time infrastructure improvements, both the rolling stock as well as streets. So that was transferred in. So that word deficit in the hearts of our accountants is a correct statement. I think, though, for the rest of the community to understand that we had planned to the council adopted a budget that had that transfer as part of it. So with the actual deficit only being $346,000, that actually means if you were to take that $1.75 million and not have that transfer, we would have been up, Mr. Lyons,
4 million.
1.4 million. So current year operating revenues versus current year operating expenses, we came in above budget 1.4 million. But because there was a $1.75 million transfer from fund balance, the way the accounting works shows that we had a deficit and then a smaller deficit. But that's an accounting issue. If Mr. Lyons and I go back and forth over this concept of having a reserve fund. So if there was a reserve fund and this was not all happening in the general fund, then there would be no deficits. But under the Government Accounting Standards Board and the way reserves versus fund balances are treated, I think Mr. Lyons and I agree to disagree over the appropriate course there. If we had the reserve fund, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but since we don't, and we, in essence, have our reserves as fund balance, that's why you see that. So I don't want anyone to read or any of the press to think that, city ends year in deficit. The city ended the year in a positive state, current year revenues over current year expenses. The reason it's shown this way is because of that $1.75 million transfer that was contemplated in the budget when it was adopted.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey, Alderman Breathwaite, any comment? Is that the last slide, Mr.?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mr. Lyons, any comments, questions? Alderman Rainey?
No, I mean.
Okay.
There's just one thing I did want to know, and that is, I don't need to know it tonight, but the emergency 911 fund, we don't get much information from them. Back in the old days, we used to present minutes and also present some, discussions of what to do about the budget. And I'm wondering, are they considering any bond issue at all to, and I don't need that answer tonight.
We'll talk with the chief and his staff. I don't believe there's any bond issue. We actually just finished up the major renovation to the center with a lot of the flat screen and new technologies that are now in the center. So.
They are making expenditures, and with the technology, there's always new expenditures, and I noticed tonight there were a few. So I'm just wondering if there's any thought of, in the past, what we did was, because we had no large balance, we sold bonds in order to generate a balance from which to spend.
And
Chief? Oh,
I'm sorry, just one thing, Chief, before you jump in. The balance is currently at 1.2 million. So hopefully that can keep us in good stead for another round of any infrastructure that's needed. And we do look at other tools. So there's other things to be done.
Technology as well as infrastructure.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Alderman, to address your question, there's a 911 board meeting the last week in March. I'll make sure that your concerns are brought to their attention. Secondly, the only funding issue that I'm aware of pending right now is there's legislation in Springfield to jump up the cost per line that's refunded back or is given to the 911 centers, and that legislation is pending, but there's been no discussion of a binding option at this
Is there
time.
an offset to that, like raising something in order to refund it to us?
No, it would be a raise to the individual line holder, whether your cell phone or your landline. It would be a tax increase on that you're already paying. It would go up.
Oh, and then we'll get some of that back.
Sort of. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I figured that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Chief. All right, I think it's been moved in second to place the financial report on file. No? Okay, can we have a motion? Thank you, Phil, for keeping us on track. Can we have a motion?
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to A6, approval of the contract with the Evanston Police Sergeants Association. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to execute and negotiate any additional terms for a collective bargaining agreement with the Evanston Police Sergeant Association, the Sergeants Union, affiliated with the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council, effective January 1, 2013 through December 31st, 2013. City Council's approval will ratify the tentative agreement reached between the parties throughout the negotiation process. Is there a motion? It's been moved and second. All in favor? Yes, Alderman Rainey. Chief, how many sergeants are there? 18. 18 sergeants.
Is that the total number of people in the
Good evening again, Madam Chairman and Alderman. Yes, that's the total number of people in that unit. We have 2 FOP units. Yes, in this bargaining unit, 18.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, getting to the one I've been trying to get to all evening, A7. Only because we had a speaker and I don't want to miss that. Resolution 16-R-13, amending the plan of operation and governance for the City of Evanston Electricity Aggregation Program. Staff recommends adoption of Resolution 16.R-13, amending the plan of operation and governance for the City of Evanston's Electricity Aggregation Program, which will allow greater flexibility in obtaining prices in order to get the best prices for Evanston residents. Is there a motion? Well, no, let's wait on the motion. Let's have our speaker, who is coming from the Citizens Greener Evanston, Mr. Jonathan Nusma. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
You might want to mention that the alteration to the agreement has to do with the term.
Absolutely. Oh, okay.
Could you just mention that so people listening?
I think it's from 1224 to 1836. 18 and 36, I believe. I don't have it right in front of me at the moment, but I believe that's the term that the agreement is mentioning. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Alderman Holmes.
Would you give your name and your address, please, sir?
Committee members, my name is Jonathan Nusma, 1408 Dempster, and I'm Vice President of Citizens Greener Evanston, and I'll make my remarks brief here. We'd just like to first thank city staff for their excellent work in the aggregation issue and bringing 100% renewable energy to our community. The proposed changes to the plan of governance will not only allow greater flexibility for the staff in terms of negotiating a deal for our community, but it will also allow us the potential to go beyond just 100% renewable energy and perhaps do some energy efficiency projects in our community or encourage the development of local solar energy projects, which have obvious environmental as well as economic benefits. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Alderman Rainey, Alderman Brathwaite, any comments?
No, I think it's excellent.
I do too. And I'm just wondering, do we have any plans to maybe survey or talk to community residents about the differences in their bills? I know I'm pleased with mine. I'm just wondering if other folk have had similar experiences.
I don't know if we have a survey plan, but we can also do that ourselves. Laura Biggs is here. Excuse me.
Alderman Holmes, members of the committee, Laura Biggs, Superintendent of Construction and Field Services for the Utilities Department. We actually haven't, to my knowledge, done that kind of survey yet, but there has been some general information collected, just in general, how much money has been saved. And so I think that can be compiled and returned back to you in a report format.
I think that would be very interesting to give to the residents to show what, what has happened with this.
Director Stoneback is out of town at a conference, and so when he returns, I'll talk with him about what we have available, and we'll get a report back to you shortly.
Fantastic. Alderman Rainey.
Yes, I know this won't reach everyone, but could you do an insert in the water bill explaining to people who have not opted in how they can opt in now?
Yes, when a new electric aggregation supplier is selected, and this is to select a supplier that will begin supplying electricity in August. But when they're selected, they will go through the whole process again to discuss it, and we will put a flyer in the utility bill as well to explain to residents what to do. So they'll do the mailings that went out to residents about opting in, and
I think we should do something before then.
Okay.
To get people
Are
thinking.
you referring to, I don't know about anyone else, but I've had lots and lots of calls from residents who are complaining because they keep getting calls from other companies asking
No,
them.
I mean, some people are with those other companies, and I want to make sure everybody knows how they can get
Into
from
with ours.
wherever they are right now, if they're not aggregated into that group. That's all.
Into the city plan, you mean?
Pardon me?
Into the city plan? Yes, okay.
Alderman Holmes, members of the committee, I think the hesitation you heard from Laura was largely because we're about to go through another cycle. This was a one-year deal. The 1 year is about over.
Right.
So we're going to be back to you, I believe, either on April 1st or on April 1st with a proposal for a new company. So we will go out, we will have bids as we did before. On April 1st, we will come back to you with a confirmation. If it remains Constellation Energy, then perhaps we can do something sooner than later. If it's going to be a different company, then we're going to have to start the information dissemination all over again. So if you can perhaps wait a couple of weeks until April 1st, we'll have a better idea then. If it's the same company, then I think we can ramp up that sort of reminder. If it's going to be a different company, then we're going to have to kind of involve a different kind of set of communications.
But if we go with a different company, it won't mean any more changes for the residents, right? I mean, residents will have to sign again or sign up again, or do we have to go through that process?
My understanding, and unfortunately our experts, Ms. Hurley and Mr. Stonebeck, are both not with us this evening, is that if you're already a part of the city's aggregation, that remains, and if the company changes, that your wish to remain with the city's aggregation remains the same. So we will be back here on April 1st with the bids of the companies, and we'll be able to give a full explanation at that time.
Yeah, that's fine. And the reason why I'm asking that question is because it does become confusing for some of the citizens, especially some of our seniors, you know, in terms of when they get the phone calls and they don't know if they've been taken out or not. And I keep saying, no, you're okay as long as you sign with the city, you're fine.
And that's why I think we hesitate putting anything out between now and the 1st of April, just so that we keep that confusion to a minimum.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you. Okay, do we get a motion? It's been, Alderman Rainey, could we get a second? Second. It's been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to A8. Resolution 14-R-13, authorizing the city manager to sign a notification and conditions of grant awards to fund the long-term care Osborne program. Never can say the word. Staff recommends City Council's approval of Resolutions 14-R-13, authorizing the city manager to sign notifications of grant awards in the amount of $27,960 to fund and operate the long-term care program for the city of Evanston.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A9. Resolution 17-R-13, authorizing apartment lease renewal for 1223 Simpson Street. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 17-R-13, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease between the City of Evanston and Nora and Nolan Robinson for the apartment located at 1223 Simpson Street. Do you have a question before that, Alderman Rainey? Okay, is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor? Oh, you have a question? Okay, Alderman Rainey, go ahead.
I'd like to know why we're late in doing this lease.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Paul D'Agostino, Superintendent of Parks, Forestry, and Facilities. This is just a staff oversight. I was short office staff for the second half of last year, and it slipped through the cracks.
And the reason we're not doing any increase?
This is partially funded through Cook County Housing Authority, and we don't increase the rent.
Why? Everybody else does. I mean, I'm not talking about, 10% or anything, but a percentage here or there.
We could definitely look at that for next
I
for
think
next
you
year.
should take a look at that policy because
Sure.
other landlords who have vouchers and et cetera, they are allowed to increase their rents.
Right.
And I'm not saying for this time, but
Right.
the policy makes no sense if we automatically don't increase rents. All right.
All right,
Well,
we'll
just
look at
as
that.
long as it was an oversight and
Yes.
not because of any issues.
One of the good things was in the report, they were all on time with all of their rent and up to date, so I did read that.
Yes.
Okay, great.
That's what we strive for.
Absolutely. Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, A10, ordinance 29-0-13, permitting issuance of a Class B liquor license to, is that for Cas LLC, doing business as La Machina Cafe? La Machina Cafe.
Move approval.
Okay.
What's the address? I'm sorry.
It's at, it's at 1620 Orrington Avenue. Okay?
Somebody here?
Is there, would you like to
come on
make a
camera and
comment?
talk
Tell us about it.
Hi, Christopher Casas with La Macchina Cafe.
La Macchina.
The machine in Italian. It's a vintage industrial style of wine bar with small shared plates and larger Italian-themed plates. And
Second business in town, right?
yeah, this will be the second business. We also are opening a coffee roastery in the west end of Evanston.
Really?
And really pushing Evanston. Me and my business partner are both local Evanstonians, and we live Evanston and believe in doing business in Evanston, so opening a restaurant in Evanston.
Great.
And the
Yes.
ask about the coffee place?
Yeah.
Talk about your coffee place.
In the mornings, the roastery. The roastery will be a wholesale business that we'll do online, and we'll market it to first Evanston restaurants and cafes, and then the greater Chicago area.
I have a customer for you. I want you to come talk to me.
Okay.
Or send me an email and I'll tell you who.
Fantastic. Great. Well, I'm excited. It's been moved in
Small
second.
plates and big drinks, is that?
Small plates and big drinks. Shared plates, Olive Marini.
Oh,
And medium-sized drinks.
I see.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's-
Ordinance 30-0-13, permitting issuance of a Class C liquor license to Coast Central Corporation. Staff recommends City Council adoption of Ordinance 30-0-13, which amends subsection 3-4-6C of the Evanston City Code to increase the number of authorized C liquor licenses to 30, and thereby permits issuance to Coast Central Corporation doing business as Coast Sushi Central at 2545 Prairie Avenue. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Alderman Breathwaite.
Is there a place that I can look just to see a breakdown of all the different liquor fees? I've noticed this 1,500, I'm trying to put it in context with everything else.
There's different fees for each one of the licenses,
Yeah.
I believe.
There
Yes.
are.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Grant for our Corporation Council. Yes, our liquor licensing manager maintains that information, so what I can do is I can get that to the committee for the next meeting, or I can just email it directly to you, whatever your pleasure is. Just as a side note, I know I've said this before, but I'm working on revisions to the liquor code, and basically the main thing is to look at the consolidation of licenses to try and collapse the number, bring some more continuity and some easier to understand language. And I think one of the components that the that the mayor, the local liquor control commission, and this committee and full council will have to consider is this issue of fees and the fee structure.
So for a business grant that's already established, they don't have to, the way I'm reading this, I may be incorrect, they wouldn't have to pay that.
You're on the wrong one.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one.
That's next one.
Okay.
That's
okay.
next one.
We're on
Looking ahead.
sushi.
Oh, pardon me. All right.
So you might as well stay there.
I'll stay up there.
Okay. It's been moved in
Yeah.
second. Do we have moved in second?
But you know, there is an issue with and one of the things I hope you consider, for example, for a Class C liquor license.
Right.
If the place has 500 seats, we charge the same as a place that has 25 seats, right? For the license.
That is correct,
I
Alderman.
mean, there's something not fair about that.
I think that's what you're trying to work on, right?
Yeah, maybe.
The problem is the liquor code has grown in fits and starts since 1972, and nobody's taken a look at it. And we've just basically been riding the wave the last 3 years with all the new exciting businesses and business models coming online. So the time is now to really try and institute some order to the process.
And the liquor commissioner, I hope, gets the message that others should be involved maybe. I mean, not just the liquor commission. I think
the liquor commissioner is coming in.
This committee really is the policy-making body, and I would sure like to have something to say in that.
I cannot.
To help you write the liquor, you know. Good. I know. So,
Okay, well, on this one,
All right.
on H11,
Move
it's been
approval.
moved in second.
Okay.
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, now, moving to A12, ordinance 32-0-13, creating a new bring your own bottle liquor license classification. Liquor Control Review Board recommends creation of a new BYOB liquor license or class, ordinance 32-0-13, amending section 3-4-6 of the city code to create a BYO liquor license class. Ordinance 32-0-13 also recommends city code sections 3-4-3, licensing 3-4-14, age restrictions, identification cards, and 3-4-19, alcohol awareness training to include BYOB in those regulations. Okay, is there?
I'll move to introduce this, but
Okay.
we need to talk about it.
Absolutely. You want a second so we can discuss it?
Sure, second.
Okay. Alderman Rainey.
Well,
It's
first
been
of
moved
all,
in second.
I think that, first of all, any restaurateur that has a liquor license that then goes the extra step and says you can bring your own bottle for a minor corkage fee or something is just really cutting into his own profits. So what I would say is if they do that out of the goodness of their heart or whatever reason, I think if they have a liquor license, they get charged not one extra penny for having a BYOB policy also. But of course, all the same rules should apply. You know, you got to have Bassett training and you got to check IDs if people bring bottles. And for the pop-ups, I mean, it's just such an exciting concept to have these, I think some places they're called guest-restaurants and pop-ups. And we even had an inquiry on Howard Street about one. I think, you know, depending on how many, and I don't know how you do this, but I just thought 1,500 was kind of a lot for a BYOB operation. Although I know that we still have to, you know, oversee, but I'm a little torn. But if you've already got a license and you're paying for a liquor license and you're generating liquor taxes, to add one nickel onto that for BYOBs, I could not support.
I didn't understand that at all. I mean, I don't know why would you even allow someone to bring a bottle into your, because you have no control over it.
But then there are the pop-ups, and then there's a
But
regular
that's different. I
restaurant.
can understand
But
that.
then there's a regular restaurant who does not serve alcohol, who allows, then I think they should be $1,500.
Well, yeah,
I don't have a problem
if you're a
with that.
restaurant and you want people to bring the wine and beer with them and yes, then I think you
Fine.
should. But I'm saying if you are a liquor established
Yeah, okay.
organization, why would you even
I think
have
we-
this? I don't think it should even apply to, I don't think they should be eligible to do that.
But Alderman Holmes, what I would like to know, if we're going to establish a BYOB license for non-liquor licensees, I would like to see a list of every single establishment that would be eligible to apply for that. Because I'm a little concerned, do we want McDonald's and, different, think about it, they're restaurants. Are we
But
going
I
to
wanna
say
have a beer
no,
with a burger.
type 2 restaurant can have a BYOB? I think there's more to it than, just, like a traditional restaurant having BYOB.
Maybe I can address.
Could we just do one thing and say that no BYOB in an established liquor licensee has to pay anything? I don't think we should.
Well, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Farrar.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, again, Grant for our Corporation Counsel. I think it's important to just give a little bit of context. The genesis of this issue occurred through the pop-up restaurant concept being brought to the attention of the mayor and city staff. So what we tried to do is look at what other jurisdictions do, and we also consulted all the ports of call with respect to the state liquor code and all that. And what I actually found, which was sort of surprising, is there is no consistent approach. BYOB is a concept that sort of exists out there on its own, and each jurisdiction comes to its own understanding and method for handling that. By way of example, Chicago does not have specific BYOB laws on their books. However, they have a number of policy-making provisos on their website which encourage establishments to carry dram shop insurance and other kind of encouragements. So what we tried to do in the legislative approach to this and what was considered before the Liquor Control Board is, okay, it's new territory, so let's make some suggested stabs at language, suggestion relative to the fee, and then obviously as this committee and the full council will make their policy decisions, it at least provides a frame of reference. So the $1,500 fee, that was really something that we picked that was comparable to other fees for similarly situated establishments. So obviously that's subject to whatever the will of the committee and the council is. With respect to the issue of restaurants, keep in mind that restaurant is a term of art under the liquor code. It is as defined, it is a complete meal, lunch, or dinner where the alcohol is complementary or incidental to the meal service. And it specifically has exceptions that bar, over-the-counter lunch. I don't think a luncheonette exists anymore, but it's in the code language, things of that nature. So there are some restrictions on what a restaurant could be. Gotcha. In terms of Alderman Rainey, your last point about what other establishments may be out there that could conceivably be eligible for this, I don't know that answer offhand. We'd have to work with Community and Economic Development and Health Department because there's a number of different licensing issues, licensing schemes that may point us in the right direction. But just, as I stand here today, I just don't know. Again, this is another one of these situations where, quite excitingly, quite fortunately, this city is experiencing new business models and people are coming to us with new ideas. It's a struggle, to be quite frank, in terms of trying to, conceptualize what language may apply, and then B, actually draft that language and give guidance to the members of this committee and the council in terms of the way forward. So I think the one point that the mayor and the liquor board did discuss was this concept of liability. And one of the reasons why we did draft the ordinance the way it is to apply to current restaurants is liability in a university setting such as this is always a concern of the mayor and the board and certainly everyone on council. So we tried to have this restricted to current restaurants such that, and tailor the language in the other parts of the ordinance so that there would be BASA training, so that there would be an understanding that, you know, the regulations do apply the same for these establishments as if they were just bringing the bottle out of their cellar in the basement. So again, it was an attempt to try and get you some language that would hopefully frame the discussion, and I'm prepared to go with the committee and the council's recommendations for revisions.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, I just think there should be a very clear distinction between liquor licensees and non-liquor licensees currently. And all of those insurance requirements and liability issues are already on the current licensee.
Correct.
So I don't see that we need to do anything special other than indicate that, you know, that people who bring a bottle have to be carded just like if you bought a bottle on those establishments. But I think it should be two distinct ordinances. I think maybe an amendment to all of the licensees saying you could, I just can't imagine the business of bringing a bottle to a restaurant that has a license. But maybe that happens. I don't know.
Well,
on a special occasion or something.
Again, by trying to give a point of reference, I've gone to restaurants in Chicago where that happens, where folks just want to come in and they have that one bottle that they want to have, and I've done that on occasion, and so it's just, again, I think what I'm hearing is probably a need to maybe get this committee some further information on this. I think from an enforcement standpoint, we're trying to give as much clarity and understanding to this proposed ordinance as possible, and to make everyone out in the larger world understand what's going on. So, if I'm hearing this committee clearly, there is some concern over the annual fee being too high. Is that a fair?
I think there should be no fee if you already have a license.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would also just like to see the fees.
Okay.
So maybe what we need to do, you want to hold this in committee?
Yeah.
We're going to hold this in committee and until we get further information on it.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. We have one more item. A13, Ordinance 34-0-13, amending the city code relating to parking on the east side of McDaniel Avenue. The Transportation and Parking Committee and staff recommends that City Council consider Ordinance 34-0-13, amending Title 10 Motor Vehicle and Traffic Residence Parking Only Districts, adding District 16, the east side of McDaniel, from 1315 through 1341, from Dempster Street to Greenwood, to 24 hours daily, 7 days a week. And this is there a motion?
Move for approval?
Second?
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
You have one discussion item?
We have one discussion item. Discussion of 727, 729 Howard Street, the city lit project. And I think there's a packet of information in front of you. And Mr. Griffin before us.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the APNW Committee. In your packet that we had scanned was information that we got, and is also at your place, from our last discussion with CityLit. when we were talking to them to continue to finalize the negotiations of a space on Howard, it was very apparent to Alderman Rainey and myself that they are more than just a theater. In the packet, and I'll highlight some of the points, they've been in business for 33 seasons. They're a 501c3 organization. During the course of the year, they have 5 shows and a number of nights. But they also provide some 5 different special programs. In April through 2015, there's a lecture and performance series on Civil War, and it's a history program. Also, you'll see a packet of information on their real-life literature, where City Lit teaching assistant or artists work with teachers and students to develop performances from literature that are working on in class, that the students are working on in class. Primarily their work was at Carter G. Woodson Elementary on the south side of Chicago, but when Alderman Rainey quizzed them, they're quite looking forward to doing the same kind of program in Evanston. Also, it was interesting to me, books on the chopping block. As you know, there's danger or concern about books that are deemed to be unacceptable and banned in schools. So they offer a 60-minute performance of readings from these banned books, and then the fourth subject area or special area was Viola Project. This is a program they have for Shakespeare for Girls that they target. It's a series of one-day workshops, or it's a summer weekend series where they bring girls in to play all parts in Shakespeare plays and learn from that. And then the fifth thing they wanted to highlight was ticket donations that they have with their programs. Over the course of this past year, there were 78 organizations and $13,000 worth of donations to these organizations, usually for raffles or silent auctions and fundraisers for that. And then finally, in the last part of the packet, in Evanston, they talk about the film series that they're hoping to do at the theater in addition to the live performances. And then finally, they begin a discussion of the economic impact of a theater of all theaters, if you will, but their theater in Evanston. And it was an interesting, I've heard this term, it's the multiplier effect associated with performing arts. In other words, it's one thing to buy the ticket, but the multiplier that's associated is where the person that attends the theater dines, parks, buy gas, drinks afterwards perhaps. And so their model is beyond the ticket that's purchased, some $28.26 for the average member. So an overall impact of somewhere between $180,000 to $370,000 K. These are the information we thought would be important as we bring forward in the future the City Lit project, to understand that it's just not about performances, but it's about overall economic impact and, as you well know, revitalization of Howard Street. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I did this quickly, but again, their packet is at your place, and we continue discussions with them.
Rainey?
Madam Chairman, the reason we did this was because they're not that well known here, even though the artistic director is a long time Evanston resident. But also interesting to note, while many of us did not know this, the Banned Books program that operates once a year through the American Library Association has been brought to Evanston without our even know. I think they were at Fleetwood one time and at the main library one time, or at another school. So it's a very interesting and eclectic operation. And I think the film series is really going to make them stand out once we get them up and running here.
Thank you.
Just hang on to this and refer to it when you have nothing else to read.
Right. Okay, I think that completes our agenda, and if I believe that planning and development should start in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Motion to.
Oh, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Okay, motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and second. We are adjourned.